and welcome back to another Sportsnaut interview. And today we are chatting with one of the best in the business, NBA insider for Fox Sports, Mr. Ric Bucher, is joining us here today. And you can also follow Ric's podcast that is called On the Ball with Ric Bucher. I recommend you go out there and do that. He's here to preview the upcoming NBA season. So let's jump right into it right now. Let's start with some of the storylines. We'll go through a couple of the more popular storylines heading into the season, starting with the defending champions, the Boston Celtics. This is the team that won over 60 games last year.
Yeah.
Got that title that they have been coveting for a long time there. Now, looking at the team this year, a lot of the core players are back. They do have to worry about the injury with Porzingis. He's out until Christmas or just after that. But just want to get some overall thoughts on the Celtics and their quest to try to repeat.
Yeah, look, overall, as you mentioned, except for Kristaps, I expect them to be as good as they were last year, and to roll through the regular season. I don't know that they're going to really put the so-called pedal to the metal and try to win 60-plus games or eclipse what they did last year. I think it's going to be a lot more, let's try to get ourselves ready to repeat. Because the fact of the matter is we haven't had that in quite some time, and I think there's a reason for it. The NBA is just not built as of right now for dynasties to occur. And I think that they're going to face the same challenge. So I have two questions that are really going to determine. Like regular season, I'm not worried about them. I'm not worried about they'll be in the top three in the West, in the Eastern Conference. They could very well vie for the best record again in the entire league without even trying for it. But two questions. One, it is a grind, and it is a grind when you get to the postseason. And they battled for so long and had to go through so many trials and tribulations to get that first ring. How hungry are they to get a second one? Because we've seen more often than not, it's not, we hear a lot of players talk about like, I won one and now I want to feel that feeling again. Most guys are like, I won one and damn, that was hard. And I like, if we get another one, great. But if we don't, I've already accomplished everything that I kind of dreamed of accomplishing. And so where's the level of hunger when we get to not just, again, during the regular season, I'm not worried about them, but when it really becomes a grind in April, May, and June, are they going to be prepared to go through what they have to? And then the other part is Kristaps. Yes, he's expected back in December, but what is he going to be? It was such an unusual injury, and I'm still not clear on like full recovery. What's the extent of the injury? And if they don't have him anywhere close to what he's capable of, then I do think that leaves them very vulnerable on the front line. Whatever the numbers may say, he just emotionally, psychologically, and physically played such a huge role for them in getting it done last year that if for some reason that he's not able to go, and there's been some indication that like it's not 100% that he's coming back and being the same, then I do think that they're vulnerable and open to somebody else surpassing them.
Yeah, and not to mention Al Horford, 38 years old now, not getting any younger, but there is still plenty of talent on that roster to be very, very competitive as many expect them to do. Now, just to your point that you mentioned, we haven't quite seen the dynasties like we have in the past recently. And I think it talks to the point that parity right now is kind of sweeping through the league. We haven't seen a repeat champion since the Warriors did it in the 2017-2018 season.
Right.
And so I just think that's an interesting, but when you look around the league, I do feel like there are a number of teams that can really push for an NBA title. And one of those teams are the New York Knicks, who made some big moves here in the offseason. They brought in Mikal Bridges, as well as more recently, Karl-Anthony Towns. How do you see the Knicks, with this collection of talent? Can they really push the Celtics here in the East?
Oh, for sure they can. The big question is going to be, how does Karl-Anthony Towns view himself in this puzzle? And do they get Mitchell Robinson back? And when do they get him back? And what role is he going to play ultimately? Because otherwise they're very small. And there's some teams that they're going to have to go through that just have size. The Bucks have size. The Sixers have size for them to get to the conference finals. And I would think anything short of not getting to the at least the conference finals would be a disappointment for all that they've invested in this team, especially all that they gave up to get Mikal Bridges. So they're clearly all in. And if I look at the pieces that are gone, as much as I want to be high on the Knicks, I don't know what it is. Like, can we please? We've been talking about this since 1973. Can it be realized for once? Which is just give me the conference finals. Give me the 93 or the 94 New York Knicks when they were at least getting to the finals and we're in that realm. But the big question is going to be, how tough are they? Physically tough now, particularly on the front line. Julius Randle, whatever you want to think about him, is a physically tough guy. When he wanted to play that way, he was capable. Isaiah Hartenstein, certainly that in spades. Dante DiVincenzo, same thing. Like, those are three. Josh Hart is on that level. Jalen Brunson in his way is on that way, but it leaves them a little short on the rugged end of things. And I don't know that they're so talented that they can beat teams with finesse. Like, the Phoenix Suns are one of those teams where I'm like, okay, they need to get into it. But they're so talented. They're going to beat a lot of teams just with their talent. At some point, you do have to hold up to the physicality and you have to impose your will. But the New York Knicks are not in that same realm talent-wise as I see it. It's chemistry. It's just pure grit. It's pretty high basketball IQs. And for me, Karl-Anthony Towns is going to be the X factor. If he wants to be a finesse big, I don't see that getting it done. If he wants to say, you know what, I'm going to be the force on the back end. I'm going to be a rim protector. I'm going to rebound. I'm going to sacrifice my body a little bit here and maybe sacrifice my stats in order to be what we need to be. Then I can see the Knicks potentially getting to the finals. But without that, I don't know. And that's my big question with the Knicks.
Yeah, those are valid questions. In fact, I had an interview last week with one of the Knicks beat reporters, and those were two of the concerns that we discussed was lack of toughness on this team and then defensive presence, rim protection on the inside. So I agree with you 100% there. Now, staying in the Eastern Conference, one of the other teams, and you mentioned them as a team that has a lot of size, the 76ers, they also went out and made a big move in free agency and brought in Paul George. Yep. Now he forms their big three with Embiid and Maxey. Yep. How do you think that big three stacks up with some of the other big threes around the league?
Well, I'm not a proponent of the big three. I mean, I'm not a believer in the big three. I think that we create that scenario. We look for the three best players on a team, and we somehow got into this mindset that you have to have a big three to play to win a championship. I think if we really get to the granular level on who we're calling big threes, it hasn't been that. It's been depth and versatility that has been the difference maker in teams winning championships. You certainly have to have one of the great, I would say two of the top 10, top 15 players in the league in order to play for a championship. But I think depth and versatility and to be able to play more than one way and how the pieces fit is of much greater importance. Yeah. I like the way the Knicks pieces fit. I like the way the Boston Celtics pieces fit. I like the way the Oklahoma City Thunder pieces fit. For the most part, the Denver Nuggets, same thing. Do the Philadelphia 76ers pieces fit? I don't know. Who's going to be the playmaker for them? Is it going to be Tyrese Maxey or is it going to be Paul George? And I know we get into this where you can pick it, you can go back and forth. You can have one or the other. If we're talking about winning a championship, there are times where you're on the floor for 2 minutes and everybody has to know what their role is. And you have to maximize that combination. And I don't know what that is for the Philadelphia 76ers. I like their potential. I probably like them more now than I ever have as far as being a title contender. But do I see them knocking off both Boston and New York? There would have to be something. I would have to see a different Joel Embiid and a different Paul George to this point. I don't know that Tyrese Maxey is going to be your number one guy leading you there. And yet, and it's more because of his physical size. I think he's been great for what he's been given inherently. He has the mentality of being your number one guy. Paul George and Joel at times just have demonstrated that they don't. While they have the physical ability, like they can be a matchup nightmare.
Right.
Paul George's decision-making it has always underwhelmed me. And Joel Embiid's ability to deliver and have the energy and health to give it to you when you need it simply historically has not been there. And so I need to see some of what they are, and I'm going to need to be convinced that these guys see their opportunity and are going to rise to the occasion to take advantage of it. Because at this point, if it's just the Paul George I've always seen, and it's the Joel Embiid I've always seen, then I just don't know that that I have reason to believe that they are anything more than once again, get to the second round, have a nice regular season, get to the second round. And then when it really gets tough, when the best of the best show up, that's when they stop and they fall short.
Yeah. And injury is always a concern with Embiid. I know he was shut down.
And Paul.
Yeah.
And
Paul
is right now.
Yeah. Yep. So a major concern for Philadelphia. Let's jump over to the Western Conference. The Dallas Mavericks, they really kind of made a surprise run to the NBA Finals last year. They're not going to sneak up on anybody this year. They could be the front runners in the West. They added Klay Thompson. What do you think about their chances this year to make another run to the to the NBA Finals?
I'm not sold that Klay is. I think actually it was a mistake for Klay to make the move that he did. I think he did it out of ego. The Dallas Mavericks and the Dallas Mavericks fans are not going to see the best of Klay Thompson. Mm-hmm. The Golden State Warriors and their fans did. And so he had a little more grace for where he is in his career now, which is going to be sometimes he's going to have good games and sometimes he's going to have games where you go, was he really part of the Splash Brothers? Is it really? Is that the same guy? And so I don't know that he's going to make a huge impact, but I do believe that people are underselling the Mavericks in terms of, hey, they got hot at the end of the season. They got hot at the right time. Look, they made some transformational trades at the trade deadline that changed them in a very definitive way. And I would flip it around and say they only had since the trade deadline to be together. And when I look at the age of some of their players, PJ Washington and Derek Lively in particular, I would expect that those guys are going to be markedly better, especially Derek Lively from what I've seen. He's really worked on his game. I would not be surprised if he's in the most improved player of the year race when it comes to this season. So I like them as a dark horse contender to get back to the finals. Again, it comes back to Luka. What kind of shape's he in? How is he able to utilize all the pieces around him? I will say, I don't know if you saw the video recently of him doing some warm-up stuff with some bands, the band stretch, the stretch band workout stuff.
I didn't see it. Tell me about it.
Well, it doesn't look very impressive. It looks like he's going through the motions, and I'm like, dude, this is supposed to be about creating like your agility and stretching, and
He looks like you and I doing it. You're saying like a normal person?
Hey, whoa! Like, I'm going to give 100%. I'm going to like I need to work on my flexibility all the time, but he's not extending it. Like he's not doing what the band work is supposed to do. And so I'm like,
yeah,
is he going to be in ideal shape? He's one of those guys who just kind of has an inherently bad body. He looks like a guy who just looks at a donut and freaking adds 3 pounds. So with guys like that, they have to do, they have to be really mindful of their diet.
Yeah.
And they have to do extra work to get right and stay right. And so it's really going to come down to, one, is Luka in shape? Can he defend? I think he's going to learn a lot emotionally from last year, because that was the surprise for me. Was like, I expected from all that he had experienced in Europe and coming over, young, certainly still young in his career, but I expected him to be far more mature and composed. And when things got tough against the Boston Celtics, he lost it. Like he did when he fouled out of the game, that was just dumb. Like, I'm mad at the refs and I'm going to take myself out of the game, essentially. And so I would expect that he would have learned from that. But you said it, like the parity in the West, if you're asking me to pick somebody, like I'm not going to immediately go to the Dallas Mavericks. I don't know that I'm immediately going to go to anybody. Like maybe by default, the Oklahoma City Thunder, just because I think that they're right on that. They have everything they need and they're right on the cusp. And there is no other, I mean, I'm not sure where the Denver Nuggets are without Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and questions about Aaron Gordon and where his head is at with losing his brother over the summer. Questions about like, how's everybody feeling about Mike Malone, always kind of pushing the envelope. There's some rumblings there that there's some discord between him and the front office. So, but I like to answer the question. I give the Dallas Mavericks a legitimate shot, but I would say there's probably 4 teams in the West that I would give a legitimate shot to.
Yeah. And then the Timberwolves as well, a team who, played well in the playoffs. That roster looks a little bit different now with Randall and DiVincenzo. We'll have to see how that comes together. But
yeah, I actually like them. I mean, I could make a case where I like them more. It's the tricky part there is it comes down to Mike Conley. I know everybody wants to crown Anthony Edwards. He's still a goofball. He's talking about going to the NFL if he wins a ring. Dude, could you win a ring first? Could you get close to winning a ring before you talk about go play in another sport? I
agree.
The majority of him and Daniels is just it's still a little suspect. And Mike Conley is such a guiding force on that. I think Dante will help in that regard. But that disparity, if Mike were like 3 years younger, then I'd say I'm going to go all in on the Minnesota Timberwolves, but he's not. And so I need to see how much he can give them, how much he has left, and whether he can stay healthy all year.
Yeah. And they did draft a rookie out of Kentucky, if I'm not mistaken, Dillingham, who
looks really good.
Yeah.
Really good. Yeah. So right. I just wouldn't expect that he's going to be able to do, again, we're not talking regular season. We're not talking 50-win teams, like
playoffs.
They're all that. And Dillingham will help them in the regular season.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to the postseason, it's going to be, is Ant going to stay focused, not talk ish to the wrong guy, not talk about any, can he stay focused on the task at hand? And if he can, then and Mike is there, then I put them in the mix. So those four teams for me in the West: Dallas, Oklahoma City, Minnesota, and Denver are my 4 teams in the Western Conference that I think all, as of at this point, I'm putting them all on the starting line and saying, okay, show me who can take the lead.
Yep. Rick, you've been so generous with your time. I just got one more for you, and then I'll get you out of here. Just real quick, we've got some legends of the game that are getting a little long in the tooth. Durant, Curry, LeBron. Yep. Are we at the end of an era here? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like that era, I think we've already flipped the page, to be honest with you. Yeah. I feel like 21-22 when the Warriors won that last championship and Steph got his finals MVP. Like, to me, that, I mean, let's face it, have any of those guys, all three, I mean, Durant, maybe because of the team that he's with, but I'm looking at like Phoenix, for example, and maybe I should put Phoenix, maybe I should make it 5. I'm going to put Phoenix just a step behind, half a step behind the other two in the starting blocks, but until further notice. But the reason that I believe in Phoenix is because I'm watching to see if Devin Booker is going to take that next step. That's why. Kevin Durant's definitely going to contribute and is an important part of that, but I don't see him as the number one most important piece on that team if they're going to play for a championship. So that said, let's just look at the last 2 years and where those guys have been in the playoff picture. All three, right? It's just, they haven't been factors. So this is, to me, Evan, this is the trickiest part of where the NBA is right now, is that of the player of the next generation of superstars, they're all internationals.
Yeah.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Giannis, Jokic. I'm going to put Wembanyama in that mix because I think he's going to be there sooner than later, right?
Absolutely.
And so the question is, like, who's going to be the next great American player, or has the NBA transformed itself totally into this global game, and how's that going to work for its popularity? Like, can we have a face of the NBA that is not an American-born player? I don't know that we've ever had to face that prospect, but I believe that we are facing it right now.
Absolutely. Well said. The game has definitely changed, and that's a great question you bring there. But we thank you so much for your time, Rick. Follow him on his podcast, On the Ball podcast with Ric Bucher. Thank you so much for your time and all your insight. Enjoy the games.
My pleasure, Evan.